Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. I am your host, Tony Ruggiero, as I am each and every week. Myself and Jackson Koert occasionally jumps in as well and provides you with a conversation with somebody from around the world of golf. These discussions, these conversations, these roundtable chats and fireside talks all come from our travels in and around the world of golf, whether it's here in Mobile, Alabama, in my office and studio, or down where I teach primarily at Old Palm Golf Club in Palm Beach Gardens, or whether it's out at the Live Tour, PGA Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, LPGA Tour, Epson Tour, wherever it is we travel in the world of golf. These are the people that I find informative, interesting, funny, great information, anything that can help you understand, teach, or play the game of golf better. That's what my goal has always been, from the Dew Sweepers all the way through the Tour Coach, and want to invite all of you to continue listening. We've got some great content out. Please check out Dew Sweeper TV on YouTube. That's Dew Sweeper TV on YouTube. I am blown away by the number of folks that continue to watch and our content, and the Pro Work series is alive and well. We've just put one out recently. We got another one coming out soon in another week, which takes you inside the ropes, behind the scenes, and lets you really get a sense for how I work with all the different teammates that we have as we continue to focus on developing the next level of talent and helping people play their best golf. So check out our Dew Sweeper TV on YouTube. I appreciate the support. Continue to listen to the Tour Coach here. Please like and subscribe and share it as we continue to grow the Dew Sweeper movement, and would encourage all of you to come see us for one of our retreats through the summer or into the fall down at Old Palm Golf Club, or we've got one in August up at Bluebell as well. And come hang out and improve at the game of golf. And now that I'm a tequila man, come hang out afterwards. We'll tape a little podcast, and you can drink an epic Western with me. There's no better drink I am finding to relax with, chill with, whether it's on the water, on the boat, fishing, or hanging out after a good day on the tee. That's Epic Western. Enjoy this episode of the Tour Coach.
Back for another Tour Coach mini podcast. Gary, thanks for joining me again.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
You know, the first segment we had touched on kind of a lot, but breaking up AMs and juniors and your weekend warriors and how to motivate them and maybe what buttons to press and win. I think some of that obviously is in the art of coaching. And one thing I've been fascinated on recently is the best questions to ask. Because I love the self-discovery that happens in lessons, and when you can get somebody to figure it out on their own and buy into it a little bit. So what are some of your best questions that you like to hear from students, or that you like to hear them respond to?
You know, I guess I realize, as you and I were talking about that I kind of have a few that I basically list in my head that I always ask. And, you know, I generally start with, after a little bit of introduction, is, you know, why do you play? What do you love about golf? What is it in golf that draws you to play? And to find out a little bit about what their passion is for the game. Two is you know, what is your favorite part of the game? And to figure out, that also helps me to understand a little bit about them as a person. And then, you know, I always tend to ask the question, if you're 150 yards out in the middle of the fairway with no wind, the flag's in the middle of the green, what do you see? Yeah. And so that also helps me kind of understand their motion a little bit. And, you know, a lot of times you get some crossed up guys that are say, well, I see a draw, but I'm trying to hit a cut. And you go, okay, well, I understand why you're struggling. Right? And so there's just a lot of little things. And then I think, you know, what other, you know, I always want to know, what other sports did you play growing up? Or what other sports are you playing now? Or what other things do you do when you're not playing golf? Mm-hmm. Which I think are always interesting. And, you know, just again, I think the more I can learn about a person from, you know, their upbringing through their athletic upbringing, to what they do now in the present moment for their athletic part of their life, is very helpful in kind of understanding, for me, where I need to go.
Yeah. It's funny, too. Sometimes one of my favorite questions to ask is, like, what are some feels you've had when you're playing good? What do you like to feel on the golf course? And what they communicate can be either vastly different from what I see and where I would have them go, or is very close to what I'm trying to get them to do, right? And it's very interesting to hear their feels with what helps them on the golf course, because it's great to make it look good on camera and see them in there for an hour and slap them on the back and let them walk out the door. But I don't know if that helps them if it doesn't align with their feels, right? Which is probably closer to what you had talked about with that shot that they see. Right, and going back to our first chat about what feels that you had from playing baseball growing up that helped you kind of dig it out of the dirt. Because do you find that oftentimes people go back to a lot of those feels?
Yeah, I think so. And I think with the talk of feels, I think it's pretty interesting to hear what somebody feels and then what you see.
Yeah.
And then even when they may even describe the feel and show you what they feel, and it doesn't look anything like the way they swing.
Isn't that funny?
And this is from good player to, usually your not so good players aren't going to be able to describe feels very well. Mm-hmm. But generally good players are going to be able to describe feels more easier than players that don't have as much. But some of the, even from tour players, the feels that I've gotten, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how I can relate to that, but I'm going to have to figure it out, right? I'm just going to have to watch you move and figure out why you like that feel, because I've never seen you do that before.
Yeah. That's a time aspect on the coach's end, too. You can hang around and understand maybe what they're saying, but then the more you watch them hit balls, or maybe the more you see it on course, you're like, now I got it, right? Like, now I understand that feel, and it bridges the gap between your communication, really.
Yeah, I mean, that feel probably happened on the golf course for these guys,
Yeah.
So it's like that golf course feel is hard to sometimes even recreate with a bucket of balls in front of you.
Really?
I think so, just because of I think it's like to create the tightness, or the...
Got it.
When I say the tightness, the smallness of the target.
Okay.
To get the brain and the body that focused to, and have one golf shot to do it, Mm-hmm. I think things trigger a little differently when that happens.
Oh, yeah. You got wind and bunkers and pin locations and uneven lies and numbers in between clubs. It's way different
chaos.
Chaos. Organized chaos. It's way different than standing on a range. Yeah.
For sure.
I got another good one for you. How do you put out fires? You're in a lesson and maybe it's not going exactly how you pictured, or maybe you've got a parent that's in there. How do you navigate those and put out those fires?
I kind of go back to the big picture is when we get off in the woods and maybe we're looked under a rock we didn't want to look under. Mm-hmm. And I go, I generally try to go back to big picture. Okay, what's the goal here? What are we trying to do? I think that generally brings us back to a more centered place. I think with parents and things, I think, I think a lot of parents don't know, especially, I've been lucky enough to teach some pretty good juniors, and parents don't, being a parent myself, nobody told us how to deal with our kids.
Right.
And nobody taught us how to deal with maybe an exceptional athlete, and that how to coaching them some in that, like I've had some parents that they go and they watch their kid hit every shot and they're involved in every bit of their practice. And I'm like, basically a lot of times your job may just be to drop them off and let them go and go practice and not have that recognition for every golf shot they hit.
Yeah.
And sometimes they may need that, but sometimes they may not. And coaching through some of that to say, hey, there's a distance that you got to start allowing to give to your kid, that because when they're in there in a lesson and they start getting involved, and that's kind of when that will lead into, okay, we got too many coaches in the kitchen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so that's a complicated thing, but as a parent, I mean, I'm very sensitive to it because I get it.
Right.
And I understand my kids. My son's playing baseball. He's got some guys that are helping him with baseball, and I have a pretty good knowledge. But it's like I know my role, and my role is the support role, and I do all that I can to stay in that role.
Wow. I hadn't really thought about it that far in advance, like being a coach, now that I've got a pretty much 1-year-old. Down the road, what's it going to be like when I know her and I know a good bit about coaching individuals, how to remove myself from that situation? Yeah,
it's not easy. My daughter recently has shown some interest in golf, and it has been like the coolest thing because she's picking it up pretty quick, and she's enjoying just spending time with me, and of course I'm enjoying spending time with her. And
heck yeah.
She's picking it up really, really fast, and I'm like watching her swing, and I'm like, wow, like that is so good. And at the same time, it's like, and I think her and I, for whatever reason, in our relationship, I think I could coach her. But I think if my son wanted to play golf, I love him as much as I love my daughter, without a doubt, but it's like, I don't know that I could be his coach because he and I are way too much alike. Wow. So it's like we would butt heads too much, and then he would, so it doesn't match. So that's why I say in baseball, it's like, hey man, I'm going to support you. I'm going to support your coaches, and you're going to do this the way they are sending you to do it. Yeah. Which is hard, but at the same time, since I've done that, he and I's relationship has vastly improved around baseball.
That's great. Because he's got to enjoy it as well. Like those juniors, whether they want to be good or not like that, they have to want it, right? Whether they're out there hitting balls or not. Like, even if they are, you take two kids, the one that loves that process and digging it out, and the other one that maybe doesn't, but he's just doing it because he's good.
Right. And maybe doing it because their parents want them to do it. You gotta. It's another whole delicate thing that, I'm constantly aware of. Because that passion will take them very, very far if it stays.
Yeah, and that's our job then, is to feed that passion and continue motivating them, isn't it?
Correct.
Doesn't hurt the income either.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the whole thing, is that you want to feed the person what they can handle, and if somebody can handle a shovel, great, but most people can't. So it's a little bit at a time, and understanding it's a process, and enjoying that it is a process, and knowing that the joy is in all of that, right?
Yeah. I had a junior at the club. I've coached now for creeping on a year, and it was an interesting transition because they went from high school to college, and as soon as they graduated high school, went on to college, their parents started splitting golf lessons with them. They're 18, time to gain some responsibility, get a job, balance your life in that regard as well. So the difference in this junior paying for half of their time with me compared to their parents paying for the whole time was tremendously different. Right? They saw, okay, they're coming to see me, and they're putting in half of their money for this hour. Well, okay, all of a sudden they're paying attention, and I check on them in 2 weeks, and they're still doing it, and they're way more engaged because they're putting their effort behind the scenes to pay for that golf lesson, and all of a sudden they're a little bit more engaged there. I don't know if the parents even realized that, but it has been awesome for our relationship as a coach to student, but I've seen them grow tremendously in their responsibility and ownership in their game as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think that's that could have gone one of two ways, right? could have gone that way, which is the way everybody would have hoped it would have gone, or it could have gone, well, I don't need golf lessons.
It's good so far. Well, Gary, thanks for sitting in again. I'm going to pull you in for one more segment. I know I've still got you driving on the road, so stay tuned for another segment with Gary Cressend.
I just want to remind everybody something that I forgot. Recently, a couple weeks ago, my wife and I went out. We went to a wedding, and afterwards with some friends, we were like, hey, where's a great place to go? I'll be honest, in my travels and day-to-day, sometimes I get caught up and I forget some of the great places right around the corner. But I got to remind you about the Icebox Bar on 755 Monroe Street. I was blown away by just the whole vibe, the atmosphere, and with the Velvet Pig, the food in the back room, and the big screen TVs up front. We sat there and watched some playoff games. I was blown away by the atmosphere, the vibe, and just how cool it was to have the Icebox Bar right here near the Dew Sweepers downtown, near where I live. You're looking for a great place to go sit, watch some games, hang out, play some pool, you got to go to the Icebox Bar right there on Monroe Street. There's a good chance you'll see all of us hanging out. But do yourself a favor, go visit the Icebox. It's one of the best places out there. Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero. And look, recently, several teachers I know and several players have had some scares with skin cancer. In fact, I recently went and saw a dermatologist here in town, and I had a couple things frozen off, eyelid, my face, my earlobe, and not getting any younger. And I know it's getting to that time of the season where it's cooler, but look, being in the sun is a real deal, and I've not been very good, to be totally honest, my whole career at using it at all, because I didn't like how greasy it was, how hard it was to get off your hands, how it clogged up my pores. And then I found this sunscreen, Visor Skincare. It's clear. It goes on. It doesn't dry you out. It isn't greasy. It's like you didn't put anything on. By far, it's the best sunscreen I've ever used. Without a doubt, is the easiest to use. And we've got a discount code for all of you. All you have to do is go to visorskincare.com. Use our code word DewSweeper. visorskincare.com, code word DewSweeper.